Perfect. There you go. So yeah, thanks for joining us this morning.
By all means.
For jumping in on this BidPak EV charging program that we've put together. So take a couple of minutes just to introduce it. I don't know if you were part of the training number one, but BidPak has put together this EV charging program to really help the electrical contractors jump in and learn how to attack this multifamily property, this space. You know, as right now the multifamily EV charging market is exploding, and the electrical contractors really need to be part of it, and we really need to understand how to approach the properties, how we're going to sell EV chargers into there, and then what the best strategy is to really go attack that marketplace. And that's kind of the basis behind this, and then how BidPak can help you as a contractor be successful in this marketplace. A little bit background on myself, as I spent 20 plus years as an electrical contractor. We built BidPak. I don't know if you're familiar with all the functionality of what BidPak is, but we built BidPak to help electrical contractors design and estimate their projects and help them run their business. But I also spent a couple of years with ChargePoint, and so really understand the EV charging marketplace. And through that time frame, we really learned what the best strategy is and what the best way to install EV chargers to maximize the utilization of those charging stations and to limit the amount of electrical infrastructure that's required to support the number of chargers that are going to be required for these multifamily properties. And so that's kind of that big debate back and forth on EV charging in this marketplace. Is there enough infrastructure to handle the amount of load? Well, there really is. And if you really think about how to properly design and properly put those things together, we really do have a opportunity to put a lot of charging stations in and to charge a lot of vehicles with very minimal infrastructure that's actually required. I'll let Ken kind of introduce himself here a little bit, and then we'll get into the content.
Well, welcome everyone. Welcome especially to all of our BidPak subscribers out there, and a warm welcome to folks that may not be signed up just yet. Let me just give you a few remarks. 2 weeks ago, we had our introductory session for this training program, and we provided an overview of this rapidly growing market segment and shared some sales tips on why property owners are especially eager and motivated now to implement charging solutions. And we also gave a pretty nice demo. Kevin did a pretty nice demo of how our BidPak software can very quickly, seamlessly complete a project design and estimate in minutes, and often during the very initial site walkthrough. Today's session, we're really going to get into the meat of our program here. Kevin just alluded to it a little bit. We'll start with an in-depth look at our scheduled charging model. It's really fascinating, combined with smart power sharing. And you're going to learn how this design really maximizes utilization of charger stations. That is so critical, and it makes such a difference in so many ways in terms of designing a very efficient and cost-effective implementation. And this is really what's going to give you guys, the electrical contractors, a competitive edge out there. You're going to see in a few minutes how we can really provide a very low-cost solution for property owners. And right now, the number one reason property owners do not implement charging projects is because they're so fearful of the extensive cost, what they perceive to be the extensive cost. And we're going to show you how this model that we have developed not only allows you to implement charging for a lot of vehicles with a few chargers, but almost in all cases, the design will not require electrical service infrastructure upgrade. So that's another big plus and cost saver. So that having been said, and let me just Kevin introduce himself. We also have Janelle Knight with us. Janelle is our director of operations and does a lot of different stuff for the company in our company support. It's one of the things that we pride ourselves on, is the ability to support all of our subscribers out there, and Janelle's just great at it, whether it's onboarding, answering specific questions. She's just really good at it, and of course the pride she takes in providing that support is what makes us successful. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin. We'll jump in and out through the various subjects that we're going to provide you today, but it's really interesting stuff, and here's where it gets fun.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. So the foundation of EV charging in multifamily properties really is around scheduled charging. And when I say scheduled charging, it creates a schedule for the EV drivers and the properties to manage when those drivers are using those charging stations, and it sets up a predictable time and schedule for the drivers to be able to know when they're going to charge and how they're going to charge. So how this really works is like thinking about what the average daily driving habits of the drivers are. So we know that an average driver in the US, based on the US DOT numbers, they drive about an average of 37 to 40 miles a day. So looking at that at a daily basis, and then thinking about that on a weekly basis, over a 4-day period of time, that's roughly about 148 miles that they're going to drive. So just keep this math in your head, and we'll show you how it all works out there in a second. And then talking about what the power consumption and the power that's required to get to that replacement of miles of EV chargers, we look at a standard 60 amp circuit, 208 volt 60 amp circuit. That's going to deliver 9.9 kilowatts to a charger, to a normal level 2 charging station. And then the estimated miles per range of that is 35 miles per hour that's going to charge. And we'll show this all, we'll break it down so you can see it in the graphic basis. But when you look at the available capacity and the available charging of that charging station, one 60 amp circuit feeding one level 2 charging station really has the capacity to deliver 800 miles of range, 840 miles of range to a vehicle. So what happens right now inside the multifamily place is that we're underutilizing these charging stations tremendously, and by allowing this top off model of having a driver come home and charge every single night, and then in a multifamily dwelling spot, they're sitting there for 10, 12, 14 hours. And what we don't want to create inside that environment is the need for a driver to come down and move his vehicle at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night to free up that charging space. So what we see on the utilization scale of the charging stations is a very, very large amount of idle time on that charger, where it's plugged into the vehicle, but it's not actually delivering any electricity or any amperage to that vehicle. So that means that vehicle's there fully charged, but not utilizing that station. So through scheduled charging, we're trying to increase that utilization.
Let me interject there. The other phenomena that happens is you get these tenants in multifamily properties competing for a charger. You may get someone that gets home from work at 4:30. They kind of beat everyone by half an hour. First thing they do is they drive up to the charger every day and charge for 2 hours. And as Kevin said, then they sit there for the rest of the night. There's no way to really get them off. Meanwhile, someone else doesn't want to really come down out of bed at 12 o'clock and plug in. But they get there, and every day they charge, even though they don't need to. There's absolutely no need to do that, yet they are occupying valuable charging time, kind of hoarding it, really. And scheduled charging eliminates that entire dilemma.
Yeah, exactly. And when we think about scheduled charging, we're thinking through a rotation that would easily replenish the miles that were taken off that vehicle in a 4-day period of time. And so, when you're looking at that and setting up the charger station, one charging point, one driver can be scheduled for Monday. A second driver can be scheduled for Tuesday. A third driver can be scheduled for Wednesday, and then one for Thursday. And then on Friday, that driver number one gets the charging station again. And so that's kind of the premise of scheduled charging.
Yeah, that's scheduled, all on the same charger. Charger serving 4 drivers on a rotation.
Exactly. And so the way that looks is that one charger has the capacity and has the infrastructure to handle 4 vehicles. Just very simple 160 amp circuit going out to one charging port through scheduled charging through a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday rotation. That one single charger can handle 4 vehicles.
Well, just scheduling during the nighttime.
Yeah, just scheduling during the nighttime. This can even increase the capacity if we create 2 scheduled periods of time during that same time. So now you could have an AM schedule and we could have a PM schedule. So now you could really increase that capacity of that charging station. And now we can confidently say that one charging port can handle 8 vehicles inside of a property. And the backup side of that is we're actually creating an environment inside of there that is predictable and controllable by the property manager and by the drivers. They know that on Tuesday they got the charging session. They're scheduled for it. It's reserved for them, and they're the only ones who will be able to authorize a charging session there. So they know that if they are late getting home from work, they get home 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, that charger is still going to be available for them on their scheduled time frame. So this whole scheduled, controlled environment really creates a harmonious type environment for the property and the drivers inside of there. And then it tremendously reduces the number of ports that are really needed. In the past, as the design goes, as EV drivers started increasing, properties are looking at, okay, I've got 8 drivers, I got 10 drivers, I got 15 drivers, so I need 15 ports, I need 20 ports, I need 30 ports. And when you look at those ports all consuming electricity at the same time period, now all of a sudden we have to have lots of circuits, and now we get into power sharing. It just gets to be too many circuits and then too expensive for that property as well. And that's why they're hesitant to put these in, because they're hard to figure out exactly what they're trying to accomplish with these. But through scheduled charging and power management, we can really increase the capacity of that one circuit. And then from the electrical contractor standpoint, this standard 60 amp circuit fits into a 3/4 inch conduit, and super easy to run and install. But then even better, when we look at efficiency and looking at increasing the utilization of the electrical contractor side of things. So now when we're looking at building the infrastructure and combining all of this together with power management and scheduled charging, we can confidently say that 8 parking stalls, 8 chargers can actually charge 64 vehicles inside that space. And that's proven, and that happens. And that can run off of two 60 or 2 1-inch conduits running out to 8 parking stalls.
And by the way, most of the proposals that multifamily properties are seeing for this scenario they're getting sold packages that are 32 to 40 charger. Now it's obvious why they're so concerned about cost.
Yeah, and what we're seeing on getting to that number of, so not only do you have the hardware cost, you've also got software costs for each one of those chargers, and that just adds up to a tremendous amount of expense for the property. And then you're looking at chargers that are only getting 10 to 15% utilization out of them. So if you really just back that off and think about this scheduled charging from the electrical contractor standpoint, we can run one 1-inch conduit with 2 60 amp circuits inside of it, and that will pick up 16, or that can pick up 32 drivers out of that one conduit with 2 60 amp circuits. And then you run 2 1-inch conduits with two more 60 amp circuits. So we're dealing with 4 total circuits into one stop out of a 1 200 amp panel. Now we can handle all the way up to 64 drivers. Why that is so that math and that circuitry, that's the most cost effective circuits to run to get the maximum amount of ampacity out of these chargers and charge the most vehicles. And when you break the math down on that, that's coming to an average full port installation with the labor, with the permit, with the conduit, the charging station, and the hardware. That's about $4,000 per port. And so when we add that up and we put a proposal, that puts you guys into this massive competitive advantage when you're preparing your proposal and putting that together for the property manager to review and look at it, because everybody else is going to be 50, 60, 80, they're just going to be somewhere, they're going to be in the $10,000 to $15,000 per port for that same kind of design. And so it puts you in this incredible opportunity to maximize this and put you in a great position to be competitive. And so what that does inside of your world is that significantly lower capital costs for the property. And so just knocks that, cuts that down. and truly increases their NOI and their ROI for the stations. And we'll walk through some different how to price, how to charge for charging and what's the different pricing structures are for the charging stations. But starting at the infrastructure and starting at the design side of it, and then starting through this scheduled charging operations, it really it reduces the capital cost, and then in most cases it doesn't require an electrical upgrade to the electrical infrastructure. Most property management or most properties can handle 60 amps. Maybe they can handle 4 60 amp circuits out of the panel, but it doesn't require a massive electrical upgrade to substantiate the charging stations to get all the way up to 64 vehicles. And so and on the plus side of that, now we're reducing the number of parking stalls and parking spaces that we're dedicating to EV chargers as well. So parking spaces are a massive conversation that properties have. It's like, I can't dedicate these stalls just to EV drivers, until I have them. So that reduces the amount of stalls that they're actually requiring that. And then just all of this stuff increases their economic benefits, and it just increases the NOI of the properties.
And by the way, guys out there, this is one of the most important charts for you to look at. Can you go back to that for a minute? This is one of the most important charts. Every bullet on here is a sales point for you. Every single one of these. This is how you sell to multifamily management. You highlight the significant benefits, and every one of them is important, really important to the property owner. So keep it in mind, and when you kind of are starting to put your sales thoughts together, this is where you come to, and these are the highlights that you want to be making during your meeting with them.
Well, and I would say this too, is that, they're not thinking about it from this perspective, and on their end, it's a really complicated thing to get approved when the cost of the project is so much. And then a lot of the times they're going out to 3 different people and then picking somebody in there. So that's where, if you utilize and teach them about the scheduled training and all of everything we're still to show you, this is where you're going to be able to win. And, they're not as massive of an undertaking for the job as other people are leading them to believe.
And then also on top of that, BidPak is here to help you with the sales approach and the marketing material. And so we can assist you, and we'll help you with the sales flyers and the conversations and the email templates to send out to the properties. So as you get into marketing yourself and putting yourself into these multifamily properties, we're also here to help you, support you in that efforts as well. And so that obviously that translates into benefits to the electrical contractors. This gives you the most effective, cost-effective, attractive proposal that's going to come across the desk of these property management companies. But also the biggest thing is it allows this really great phased approach to adding more charging stations. So you can come out with one conduit and start with 2 charging ports. And then those 2 charging ports, they'll be able to handle 8 vehicles. So as the properties are getting used to EV charging, we can come in and get installations done for $10,000, $12,000 and have charging available inside of a week. So this is long time drafting. This isn't having to go through engineering, having to go through many channels. So this is the quickest and easiest way to get to the market and to get your foot in the door of these multifamilies, is coming in with an entry package, and then we can phase them up as we see the EV adoption grow over the next couple of years.
And actually, 2 chargers will let you implement and handle up to 16 vehicles if daytime and nighttime charging is implemented.
Correct.
You can actually handle up to 15 vehicles with two parking spots.
It's pretty incredible. And so, we've talked about the schedule management and how that works. Well, BidPak's developed a simple app for the property managers to use, which connects with the EV chargers, so we can implement the sales or the scheduling side of it very easily. As a new driver comes to the property is going to come talk to the property management. The driver will talk to the property management company. They'll get on the schedule, and then they'll know when their scheduling fits for that EV property. So super easy to implement, and it all works with all the different softwares that are out there. So any OCPP compliant charger fits into this program and is available to be able to implement into this strategy. So really easy and very simple for you to take this to the property management company, and the property management company implement it and control it and provide it to their drivers and their tenants. So yeah, as I said, so that also one of the biggest benefits is that really provides an EV charging program for the property management and the drivers. So like Kim was saying earlier, if we didn't have scheduled charging, that person who gets home from work at 4:30 every day is always going to get access to that charger because everybody else is home at 5:30. And then so the people that come home late, they're always scrambling to find the available chargers. So this controlled environment really introduces a true EV charging program for these properties that's easy to manage and delivers exactly what they're trying to accomplish, charge and distance to their vehicles. So yeah, so just to kind of wrap that up and put that into sales bow, the scheduled charging plus power sharing, that's your best and your most economical EV charging solution for multifamily properties. That minimizes your upfront investment, so the properties don't have to raise capital or it's not a massive capital improvement, and then it really reduces your ongoing costs. And so we'll step through some of these ROI calculators and what that really looks like here in a second.
And real quick, Kevin, we got a question from Gary.
Yeah.
How have you found integrating the program for property managers and the response from the tenants of these properties?
Yeah, so as we come into these, obviously this is a newer concept, and so this is birthed out of the frustrations and inside of the tenants. So this is the newer concept, and so we haven't had a whole lot of feedback on it yet. But what we are hearing is that this is a tremendous strategy of moving forward and being able to operate in those spaces.
You know, within I'll call it the academic environment, commenting on multifamily EV charging, within that academic environment, our approach here has been touted as the most significantly important way to go. And from both perspectives, as Kevin mentioned, it minimizes this whole tenant frustration and chaotic approach if you don't do this. And boy, the last thing in the world the property manager wants is to have a whole bunch of pissed off tenants crying at them that they can't find charging time. So it addresses that concern. And of course, on the property owner side, it provides a really cost-effective way to get into this business. And so what I'm saying is that there's an awful lot of academia that is starting to recognize this as a very, very viable and attractive approach.
And then just to close that concept out, EV charging is such a new concept, to these properties, to everything. So these philosophies and these thought processes are changing and molding and building every day. But now that we're to a point where we have data, we have enough true data that these aren't just concepts that are birthed from what we think is going to happen. This is from what I've seen and what is actually true and what is happening in this place because of the number of ports that are available. They are completely being underutilized. And so we're just trying to take that same station that's there and just fully maximize the utilization of it. So as we move through that concept and as you start to call on multifamilies and we get into some design stuff, that conversation is going to come up over and over and over again. And we will continue to just talk about it and make sure that you're so comfortable with it that you can go talk to the facilities and talk to people. But that also leads us now into who do we talk to? Who is involved in this whole decision process, things being charged in? And I see, is that another question? Yeah.
Keep going for a second.
Okay, so just unpacking the key stakeholders and their priorities and their thought processes in the multifamily world. It starts with the property or the community manager. they're the face of that property. They're the ones who oversee that property, and they're there for the daily operations. And their job is to make sure that their tenants and their residents are happy. And
Hold on, pause. That comes in with the question we just got.
okay.
So do we see the likelihood for charge schedules being implemented from the get-go when leasing tenant spaces? Like you said, we don't want to create a bunch of disgruntled tenants.
Yeah. No, we want to implement this charging situation as soon as an EV driver is leasing that property, or when they've bought a new property, or when they've bought the new vehicle. Or if we're implementing this on a new build, we definitely want to start from day one with scheduled charging. But then also, if we do run into properties that already have chargers, then we can roll this into this scheduled program as well. And that way, so it works in all different conjunctions of this. But yeah, we want to be strong and aggressive with this is how this works, and this is how you get to maximize your stations and you get to control your environment.
You know, and these properties are used to scheduling the use of some of the facilities and the other amenities. So this shouldn't be a completely new concept, you know, and they sign the new tenants, they sign agreements all the time. And this is just one additional agreement that benefits them.
Yeah. And, you know, it's like, let's just unpack that as the rooftop amenities come up. And now you have barbecues that are on the rooftop amenities. Tenants have to go schedule the usage of those barbecues for when they want to have that event there. So one, tenants are used to scheduling for the amenities that are in the properties, and two, the property management companies are used to scheduling and managing that as well. So this isn't out of the realm of what they're doing. This is just an additive part to how they're thinking about it, and it's really how we need to think about EV chargers as well. They need to be controlled and they need to be accessed as well. So on top of the property manager, they obviously roll up to the area regional manager that oversees 4, 5, 6, maybe 10 properties, and they're really on the larger, broader strategy of those properties, and they're looking about budgets, adherence, and longer term portfolio type management of those properties. And then the asset manager sits on top of the whole portfolio, and they're the ones looking at the ROI and the NOI. And if we make a capital investment here, then what do I get in return for that? And so those are kind of the sales side of it that we deal with. But then we also deal with the facilities manager. And the facilities manager is probably the person that as a contractor, we're going to work with the most and talk to the most. That facilities manager is the person who's on site, who knows the building. He knows where the panels are. He knows what work's been done in that building. He knows how people come in and out of that building. So he's going to be the one who assists in the design and helps where we can run the conduits or you know, that kind of stuff for the building. And then so he's going to be also your first point of contact when a maintenance call comes into play, so the chargers aren't working. And then also he'll be the person who remembers you and calls you for more additional work as you get into those properties. So that's kind of the 4 primary people that are involved in a multifamily property, and how to talk to them and how to deal with it. And then so now as we get into, okay, how do I find these properties? How do I get in touch with this stuff? What works inside of that stuff? So first step is research. You know, just find a target area, find the multifamily property in your area, find out who the property management company is, and develop who they are, and then identify the key contacts. Really easy to find the property manager and the facilities manager, and then make a conversation to them. You know, open up and say, hey, we really, you know, we're an electrical contractor. We're based right here in your area, and we're wondering what you guys are doing for EV charging, and present a valuable asset to them. And then be concise, be very brief, quick, in and out of it, and introduce yourselves. And then BidPak is also going to help you with some of those templates, right, and some of those strategies and some of those opening lines to get into these places. But really it's hey, we can help, and we're here local for you. And so when something breaks, we're here to fix it, and we can take care of your property.
And we're going to give you a lot of those contacts. We have a huge database, and or whatever geography you're working in, we can provide you a bunch of these contacts the property names and the various contact phone numbers and email addresses.
Yeah. So when you're ready to get started, oh, excuse me. Yeah, when you're ready to get started, we've already done that research on the properties and where they are and who the players are and assets. So as you move, we'll just throw those contacts into your BidPak account, and then you can go manage that from you. But also, BidPak's here for the whole sales cycle. We're here to help you on the design side if you need to run into a different circuiting of it, hardware selection to choose the right hardware for that. And then we got the software that runs on top of all those. So yeah, so we're truly here to help the entire way. And as we get into the sales cycle of this and the how we're going to present this to the property management companies is, first meeting, really, we're going to start, how many drivers do you have? What's going on? A phased rollout, charger locations, a couple of those things that we just need to uncover and figure out where they are. And then power sizing, what's available inside your panel. Do we need to look at a new infrastructure, or can we find available power into there? And most times in multifamilies, we can either do like a 30-day load study, or we can review the last 12 months of their utility, and we can find power inside of there that we can allocate to these EV chargers. And then really we want to start talking about the revenue stream and how the revenue is going to come back into there. So when we make those first contacts, you as a contractor need to be ready to talk about that stuff and have a kind of a plan in place and have the strategy. And that's what this program is all about. So we're going to help you put that together and give you the tools and the requirements to be able to do that. And I'll let Ken kind of talk about some of the net operating incomes and some of the value proposition of the different revenue streams that these properties are interested in looking at.
Well, in addition to all of the key positive sales points we just went through, here's a huge one. If you can go to the property owner and say, look, we can implement a very cost-effective program for you, less than $50,000 to get you started, and you get your foot in the door. But then you also say, by the way, we can show you how you can actually become cash positive through implementing charging. So just a couple of terms here. So here's what these guys are interested in. Two things. Net operating income. Okay, that's simply a term that is their total income minus total expenses equals net operating income. It's how multifamily properties are viewed, measured, gauged by the finance community. That is a key profitability indicator. And what goes hand in hand with that is what's called a property valuation. Most properties are valued at what's called a 5% cap rate. What that simply means the example there. If you've got 10 million of net operating income, you simply divide that by the cap rate, 0.05. It means your property is valued at 200 million. Again, it's a huge, huge thing for these guys. It's what they live for. It's how they are measured. So anything that can add to net operating income, which automatically then adds to property value, is a real huge for these guys. And if you can go in and drop on them a model that lets them get to that point, you got another huge leg up on other folks. Yeah, go ahead. Next slide.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay. So how are properties, what are their choices? Well, on charging the user. Well, they can provide it for free. Not many people do that. I mean, it certainly has benefits of attracting residents. If you say you're going to provide free EV charging, say, well, sign me up. But, then you've got, not only do you not add to your net operating income, but you're going to take a hit. Now you have to be covering the cost of electricity, covering the cost of software associated with it, maintenance charges. Not many people are doing that. Another solution is to raise rents for everyone in the entire complex. That also has a high pushback from tenants who are not EV drivers. And right now, that number is like 80% are not EV drivers. So they're sitting there going, what the hell are you raising my rent for? I don't even use it. So that's also not a very popular approach. Most multifamily properties are going to this direct charge route. In other words, they're going to charge the tenant based upon the power that he's drawing, based upon his kilowatt draw over the course of a month. And by the way, our software measures that. So that's an easy thing to do. we view EV charging, not just we, EV charging is viewed as an amenity for these properties. And it goes hand in hand. And Kevin alluded to it a minute ago. It goes hand in hand with other amenities. When you're at gym membership for you, I've got pool membership, parking, you can pay for your parking. Oh, I've also got EV charging as an amenity. And here's the estimated fee for that. So it fits in very nicely as an amenity. If you remember from session 1, we were saying that EV charging is really becoming more than amenities, becoming a necessity. And it's absolutely going to be included along with all these other perks that a facility provides. Okay, so how it works. Very simple, pay per use. We measure the kilowatt hours. The owner sets a rate that he wants to charge. I'll go through an example of this in a minute. And the benefit is he covers his electricity costs, software costs, maintenance costs, and generates a little bit of profit for increasing his NOI. So these are very good inputs to develop a model for the user, and pretty easy for him to put together. But it's important that you can point some of these features out to the property owner when you're talking to him to say, we can show you how you can pull in positive cash from implementing this pay per use model. You know?
Hang on, my computer froze.
As I said, the key question, how much power is going to be consumed? You know, we measure that, but we can certainly make projections on utilization and how much power is going to be consumed for the entire project.
There we go. I had
Okay.
to turn off my.
So, following on with the scheduled approach that we showed. So if you've got charging hours of 14 charging hours a week, that's for a particular tenant. And you get 3.6 miles per kilowatt. That's a very good number. It's an industry standard number, 3.6 miles for every kilowatt that's used. So miles per hour of charge equal 18. That's just 3.6 times. I assumed in this model that we're using a 5 kW per hour charge rate. If we're using 9.9 charge rate, of course, the number is a little bit different, goes up. Anyway, the total miles per week, 252. This is for the charger now, 252, and that gives 36 miles a day, 13,000 miles a year for the unit. But when charging 14 hours a week, we more than cover the drivers in all average cases. We cover his mileage demands. And by the way, that's covering 7 hours of a 12-hour. If he's assigned a 12-hour charge block and he only uses 7 hours, either because he's fully charged up, in most cases it will be because he's fully charged up, but if he comes in with a really low battery, 20%, he's still got the remaining hours of his 12-hour time block to try to get to a full charge. So we're actually putting more mileage on than he would need during that 12-hour charge time block. Okay. And that's where we get the 14 hours for the driver 1, 14. Add up these drivers, and you can see at the bottom, total kilowatt on this station, total kilowatt for scheduled charging is 1,061 kilowatts. That would be the expected draw. And then we throw in at the bottom, you see we threw in, they said, well, let's say 20% of the daytime charging gets consumed. That could be all the way up to 100% if the scheduling is really efficient. But we said, let's say the total kilowatt per month usage is 1,273 kilowatts. And we'll show you how that translates into money for the property owner. Okay. So here we go. So let's say there's not 200 units in this facility. And let's just start with an easy case of one charging unit. One charging unit. There's the 1,273 kilowatts. And there's simply the number of 15,000 for the year. And I just threw in a number of 15 cents per kilowatt. Kilowatt prices are going to range from like 9 cents in some places to maybe 20 cents on places like, California, Hawaii. But there you have a simple calculation of what the total electricity cost per month would be, $191, pretty straightforward. Add in network fees, that's the software cost. So that adds in $60. And by the way, the 191 for a year is $2,290. And then we have assumed a maintenance cost of $300. So total cost comes out to 18 cents per kilowatt. Of course, most of that being the electricity charge of 15 cents and 3 cents for software and maintenance. Now let's just say up to the user what he wants to charge. But even 35 cents, if he charged 35 cents a kilowatt, that's still, by the way, a lesser number than the equivalent cost of a gallon of gas. But even if he charged 35 cents, you can see how his NOI, his net revenue, increases. For one vehicle, he adds 2,000, covers all of his costs, and he adds 2,695 to his net operating income. And now if you go out to the other side of this chart at 20 vehicles, well, these are pretty good numbers. He gets $50,000 out of the system, and his property value has gone up $1,000. Property owners don't understand this. They automatically assume that they've got an overhead cost now associated with this, that it cannot be recovered. And our model shows it can be recovered and it can be accretive to their net operating income. It's important. It's an important point to make. There's also another model. It's called a flat fee model. So, and they can do this. Property owners can do this. They can charge a flat fee, like we're going to charge you $120 a month. And that has certain benefits to it. It provides some predictability for both the landowner and the tenant. They know and anticipate fixed costs. It's consistent with charging fixed costs for other amenities. You get your pool for $100. You get your gym for $75. So it fits into that flat fee. And this is up for the property owner to decide if he would like to do it this way. It's very common. It's a very common way to handle amenities and multifamily properties. From our perspective, doesn't much matter. It can still result in a very positive cash income to the property owner. Let me show you on the next slide here. So even with a flat fee, in this case, I said, well, let's say they charge the tenant $100 a month. And you can see the numbers there, pretty much the same as the pay per use model. They still get from one charger positive $2,000 from one charger all the way out to the end, 42,000, little less than the charge per use. And tenants, by the way, usually like this. It offers them, they pay a flat fee, but it really gives them unlimited charging. So even though they may have a scheduled time block, they still have all the daytime hours to plug in, and they'll not be charged anymore for that because it's not pay per use. It's just a monthly flat fee. So it can be attractive for them. Got it on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So takeaway on this, we threw out a lot of numbers there. We threw out a lot of scenarios and a lot of different things there. Don't worry. We're still here to support you and to reiterate these numbers and to communicate these to you 1,000 times. We don't expect that this sinks in and be like, oh, okay, I understand it, I get it. But the takeaways is, let's increase the utilization of the station that's there. That decreases the capital investment of the property. Let's not sell unnecessary EV charging hardware that's not going to be used, and let's just schedule the charging sessions for there, and then the properties will benefit. And then on top of that, the way that the BidPak model software, our software provider, that network fee is actually going to be the lowest price in the industry as well. So it gives you another huge competitive advantage because the way we structured our partnership with our software provider. But big takeaways on this is that we're going to leverage the information that I've gained and that BidPak has to help you as an electrical contractor break into this marketplace and be successful at this marketplace, because over the next 3, 5, 10 years, this is a huge growth opportunity for you as a contractor. And we really want to see you guys be successful. And we want to be part of that. We want to be here to support you through that entire process and just be here to help you with the sales aids, help you with product selection, help you with the purchasing of that stuff, the software side of it, and then we'll be able to be part of you as a BidPak subscriber. This is an additive benefit that you get as part of your BidPak subscription, as part of the BidPak team.
Yeah. And just quickly follow up to what Kevin just said. We did throw a lot of data out. You don't have to memorize this stuff. We just want you to be exposed to this and get a rough understanding of all the benefits that are associated with this program. You will become very proficient with it, but we have very, very good sales material for you. Everything I just showed you on the numbers on on a revenue model. We've got very good handout materials for you to sit down and just go over with the property owner. It's not that you have to memorize it. Just be, and the more you do it, the more you will actually become familiar and comfortable with it. But we'll support you right from the start. And it's material you can sit there and either send, email, sit down with them across the table and review it with them. So don't worry about that. We got you covered.
And let me add to that as well is, it feels like a luxury, this EV, and it feels like a whole new thing to get used to. It feels that way for the drivers. It feels that way for the properties. It feels that way for you electrical contractors. It's that way for the people that are trying to help connect the dots and be involved in the whole process. And I think that it really starts with the electrical contractor, helping them understand the power utilization. And so the power utilization with the scheduled charging and with not over, building the infrastructure from the get-go, right? We're dumbing it down and making it a little bit more simple in the sense that it doesn't have to be big and overwhelming from the front. You get your foot in the door, with that happy customer, they're going to keep calling on you. That's the same model essentially that's applied here. It's just taking this new piece of information and this new amenity to figure out and just kind of making it more simple. And really that's, electricians are some of the best salespeople anyway that people automatically trust. So the better that you guys can understand all of this, the more it's going to help this infrastructure get built out and not run so far behind like it currently is. We got another question.
Well,
I'll read the question unless you were going to say something, Ken.
I was just going to say one sign-off point before we thank you, is that there's going to be one other session coming up, probably in 2 weeks from now. It'll wrap up our material. It goes a lot into some further sales pitches, some sales points to make. But one more session coming up after this that will round out our entire program with you. And of course, all of these are available for you re-reviewing and going back through. We provide those links for you to take another look at them. But that's
okay. Okay, another question here. I relatively am ignorant on the chargers enabling the charging. Is there a way for the charger to be turned off to anyone else other than the scheduled user for a time period in the event you have users not wanting to share?
Yeah, absolutely. We will lock them out. The software will go through a user access control. And if it's scheduled for someone at a certain time, like no one else can plug in and charge. It will lock them out. You need to protect the schedule. And part of, if you recall one of the bullets we had, an important part of making sure tenants understand this is something called this tenant agreement that the property owner needs to communicate how this is going to work. Tenants need to know that this isn't just be on best behavior. We want you to cooperate. They need to know that if they try to charge during a time that someone else has already scheduled, they're not going to be able to do it. Locks them out. By the way, one last thing. Sorry to interrupt. One last thing. For those open time slots, so let's just say we had nighttime schedule. For those open time slots, let's say during the day, our software that we developed, the scheduling software, allows any user, to go and reserve time on their own. They could say, well, gee, I'm running a little low this week because I had to make a trip out of state and I'd like to get a little top off and I've got the time to do it. So I'm going to reserve 12 noon to 4 in the afternoon on Wednesday. And I see it's open. Let me block it in. And now that's blocked out for him and no one else could pull in during that time period either. So
the follow-up question also was, and have you seen good scheduled parking rotations with non-EV parking? Our property's doing a scheduled parking situation for non-EV.
You mean to parcel out? I assume that means to parcel out a few number of parking spots. I'm not aware that anyone's doing that. I don't know how they handle a situation where they have more tenants than parking spots.
Very typical for the garden style homes where you want to park in front of your building, but maybe they're not available. And so you got to park on the other side of the building. No, I've never actually seen scheduled parking being implemented for non-EV charging.
The closest to that comes to paid dedicated parking. You can it's an amenity. You can buy your spot, and then you've got your spot. I guess that could be considered a scheduled parking situation. And a lot of places will do that. You can have your own dedicated parking spot, but you got to pay $100 a month for it. It falls into that same entity category.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, and I'll just put our contact information on the screen here. I had to do that a little earlier, but that way, if you have any follow-up questions and you want to reach out to any of us, please don't hesitate. We're all here for it. You've seen our info at bidpak.com email, as well as our support at bidpak.com. We're available, our team's available there. And then the three of us individually, our emails are here, and feel free to pick up the phone and give us a call. Happy to receive anything from you. And we can, if we don't already have your email, drop it in the chat and we'll make sure to send this slide deck over to you as well as the recording.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll circle back and see you on session 3.
Okay. Take care.